everyone, I'm Sidra Iqbal and welcome to this new series of conversations brought to you by Dove, No Damage Beyond Repair, in association with Express Tribune. In these conversations, of course, we're talking about damage, लेकिन जो myths हैं, हम उनको bust कर रहे हैं. लोगों को लगता है कि damage reversible नहीं है. अगर कुछ ख़राब हो गया, कुछ नुकसान हो गया, कोई challenge है, तो उसको सही करना बहुत मुश्किल है. Of course, मुश्किल तो होता है. लेकिन अगर आप कंसिस्टेंट हैं, अगर आप कमिटेड हैं, तो ये इम्पॉसिबल नहीं है. एंड इन दिस सीरीज ऑफ कॉन्वर्जेशंस वी मीट पीपल who are doing exactly that. My guest today is actually using technology to do it. कभी कभार जो हमसे मुख्तलिफ होते हैं या कोई आइडिया अगर नया होता है तो उसको मानना या उसके लिए कन्विंस हो जाना इतना आसान नहीं होता. But through technology and through her initiative, she's changing the lives of many and changing the mindset of many organizations. She truly is a diversity champion, and her co-founding partnership is this initiative called ConnectHear. This is basically for people who have additional needs when it comes to the facility of hearing. लेकिन इसने ज़िंदगियों को कैसे बदला है, ज़िंदगियों को आसान कैसे बनाया है, ख़ास तौर पे नई opportunities और organizations में ऐसे मौक़े कैसे पैदा किए हैं कि ये ज़्यादा लोगों के लिए accessible है. Let's find out about that. हमारे साथ आज मौजूद हैं अज़ीमा धांजी. Hi Azima.
Hi Sidra, thank you so much.
It's such a pleasure to have you here, and I know कि ConnectHear के बारे में बहुत सारे लोग जानते हैं, but I want to know that moment when you felt committed to this idea, and also for those of us जिनको ConnectHear के बारे में ज़्यादा details ना पता हों, उनके लिए बताएं कि what exactly is this initiative?
So ConnectHear started in 2017 with one goal and one goal only कि हमें तमाम जगहें जो आप और मेरे लिए accessible hai, we want to make those spaces accessible for persons with disabilities as well, and we use technology in making that happen. And the moment in my life when I decided I wanted to do that was actually before going to university. So I am raised by deaf parents, so my mother and my father, they're deaf. Sign language is my mother tongue, so I was raised in that environment. But growing up, like family and meri life was for me very normal. Like I never felt that I was different or my parents were different. But I think once I started going out in society, to my school, to college, I realized that the deaf community, especially in our country, they don't have the same opportunities that others do. And the only difference between a deaf person and us is that we can hear and they can't. And through sign language, I'm able to understand my parents so easily. They treat me like any parent does, you know, डांट भी पिटती है
और rules भी होते हैं, पाबंदी भी लगती है.
Absolutely.
But Azima, I want to understand, your normal is not everybody's normal, right? तो मुझे ये बताओ कि growing up, when you thought कि तुम्हारा childhood बिल्कुल बाकी बच्चों जैसा है, I'm sure कि experiences मुख्तलिफ होंगे, especially जब आपकी family बाहर outing के लिए जाती होगी. You can hear while your parents are using sign language. कभी ऐसा लगा कि लोगों के रवैये या उनके reactions बहुत मुख्तलिफ है when they see you conversing amongst yourself in sign language?
Absolutely, all the time. And so whenever we used to go out, like malls chale gaye ya shaadi pe chale gaye, and we all are talking to each other in sign language, there would be people who would be staring at us, or they would say things like, you know, oh, sab deaf hain, sab nahi sun sakte, zindagi kaise guzarte honge. And I've been raised hearing all of these things. Not only that, but there were so many people who would come to me and ask me, why are my parents the way they are? Or why don't we do anything to try to fix our parents?
Wow.
So yeah, like and as a child, these are difficult things to hear. I'm very fortunate that my parents were very strong and they instilled in us the belief that our parents aren't any different. But we were raised hearing all of this. A lot of the times people would say कि आप हाथ हिलाते हैं तो आप हाथ हिला के क्यों बात करते हैं? Or I've heard a lot of like, that's like, you know,
pity,
common thing.
The
pity element, and people not understanding that how did my parents as deaf people, they were able to raise us, you know. Every time I would have an achievement in my life, everybody would say कि इसके parents deaf है, फिर भी she did this.
Yeah.
So I was raised hearing all of this. However,
I can't help but miss Azima कि तुम जो बात कर रही हो ना उसमें ऐसा लगता है कि एज अ सोसाइटी हम सिंपैथी और पिटी यानी जब आप किसी का एहसास कर रहे हो और जब आप किसी को एक तरह से उसको बेचारगी की तरफ ले जा रहे हो इसमें हम फ़र्क नहीं कर पाते. आपको ये लगता है?
Absolutely. I feel कि empathy का भी element बहुत कम है. Just adding on to that, people feel. I think all of us have very kind hearts. We feel for others. We want to give charity to them, to show our bitterness and sympathy, but we never want to put ourselves in their place. We never want to think that how could we support them in a way that they can have life independently. So even growing up, you know, my parents had so many deaf friends, and Mama Daddy were lucky that Bhaiya and I were there, and we would be their interpreters all our lives, right? So even if it's like the simplest phone call, rickshaw wale se baat karni hai, or even my parent-teacher meetings. You know, you asked about experiences, a very, I think, strange experience that happened to me, and that also made me feel different for the first time in my life was my parent-teacher meeting. So when I went to my parent-teacher meeting with my mom, you know, whatever the teacher was saying, I was interpreting it. And Mama was just like listening and she was just enjoying. So the teacher said कि ये बहुत बातें करती है, class में बहुत मस्ती करती है. And I'm interpreting it to my mom, and my mom, she's just smiling and laughing कि बच्ची है, मजाक तो करेगी. So my teacher thought that I was interpreting incorrectly. So teacher is saying मस्ती करती है और मैं कह रही हूँ कि ना बहुत अच्छी बच्ची है, class का decorum maintain करती है. Right? And then my teacher said that no, you have to bring someone I could directly talk to. And when my teacher said that, you know, I was like, you're speaking to all of my friends' parents. Why can't you have a conversation with my parents?
So एक mixed feeling आई तुम्हें कि एक तरह से लगा कि for this reason your parents are being excluded. And I think what a powerful story, जिस तरह हम अक्सर कहते हैं ना कि changing your wound into, transforming your wound into a strength, कि तुमने उसी से inspire होकर तुमने कहा कि अच्छा I'm going to make sure that other people do not have those closed doors, rather more opportunities open for them.
And it took time to reach there. I wouldn't say that it happened to me and I started ConnectHear. I think it was just so many stories going out, and my parents had my brother and I, but there were deaf people जिनकी पूरी family में सिर्फ deaf लोग थे. They couldn't even go for like doctor's appointment. They couldn't go and, you know, resolve their land issues. छोटी-छोटी चीज़ें life में, उससे लेके बड़ी चीज़ें. And I started just interpreting. My mom and dad would send me with everyone. Since I was 11 years old, I was interpreting for people. I was like so many people's voice. And I think these experiences in me led me to one day being like कि अच्छा अगर कोई और नहीं कर रहा, that does not mean that I cannot do it. And that's when I took that.
What has been your biggest hurdle in this journey, Azima, कि जब तुमने तहिया कर लिया and आहिस्ता आहिस्ता this forum, this initiative was taking shape, can you go back to any conversation जहाँ तुम्हें लगा हो कि यार oh my god ये तो बहुत साल लगेंगे लोगों का mindset बदलने में?
In 2017 when we started, people did not even know what sign language was. Like लोगों को sign language क्या होती है, ज़बान है. Deaf community, they're smart. The only limitation is hearing. They didn't know all of this. And I remember when I started ConnectHear, I was studying at IBA. So I had a lot of conversations where people were like, you're studying at such a good university, you can go and work at a big company. Why do you want to focus on a niche? Why do you want to solve a niche group ke problems when our country has a lot of issues or a lot of opportunity to explore? Why this? And it was for me very disheartening to hear because I'm a daughter of deaf parents. And for people to say that my parents do not matter and there are bigger things to think about, I think these were some of the things that sort of were damaging for me.
Communications की क्या अहमियत होती है? Do you really feel हम में से वो लोग जिनको अल्लाह ताला ने ये सलाहियतें दी हैं कि हम बात कर सकते हैं, हम सुन सकते हैं, हम भी सुनकर अनसुना करते हैं चीज़ों को. And I want to draw that attention to the difference between hearing and listening. कभी कभार हमारे बहुत करीबी लोग who we claim to love, they're trying to tell us things और हम उनकी बात सुनकर भी नहीं सुन रहे होते. How damaging can that be?
I feel my parents, even having hearing limitation, were able to understand me so much better than my teachers who had the hearing capacity and opportunity. I feel the support that you get, the response that you get when someone actually listens to you, understands you, is so important. I thought मैं बोलूँगी और वो लोग भी कहेंगे कि why do you want to do this, or they won't give me time or importance at all. But I was surprised that they did not only listen to me, but they also told me that to go out there and do something about it. And I don't think that अगर वो मुझे push मिलता in the very beginning, I wouldn't have taken it up, because it's such a huge responsibility to represent a huge, large community that no one is thinking about. I always say this, that it's easy to build a ride-hailing, food-hailing, e-commerce platform, because there's so many people who are doing it, the idea is clear in our heads. But when we started ConnectHear, we not only had to provide services, we had to educate the masses. We had to tell them about the deaf community, what's the right terminology, how do you use sign language. And it was not an easy journey, I would say.
तुम्हारी बात सुन के ना मेरे जहन में आ रहा है so many instances where as a person and also specifically as a woman, मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि I have felt unheard. यानी हम एक empowered तबके की बात कर रहे हैं, आप और मैं, हमारे पास बहुत सारी opportunities हैं, we are educated, we are financially independent, but at the same time, there's so many times जब मुझे लगता था कि मेरे इर्द गिर्द के लोग मुझे समझ नहीं पा रहे हैं. I have an idea, my friends are not understanding. मैं बताऊँ back in school as well, when I was a public speaker और मुझे ये होता था कि अच्छा मैं national circuits में जीत रही हूँ, मुझे international championship में जाना है, मेरे फ्रेंड्स बैठ के बात कर रहे होते थे कि अच्छा आज हैंग आउट करेंगे नैंडोज़ में या फलाना कैफ़े ट्राई करेंगे. एंड व्हेन आई वुड बी स्पीकिंग, इट वाज ऑलमोस्ट लाइक स्पीकिंग एन एलियन लैंग्वेज कि क्या मिलेनियम डेवलपमेंट गोल्स डिस्कस कर रही है, सस्टेनेबिलिटी की बात कर रही है. लेकिन ये गैप्स होते हैं एंड समटाइम्स दे कैन कॉस्ट यू रिलेशनशिप्स. हैव यू लेफ्ट फ्रेंड्स बिहाइंड जो तुम्हें लगता है कि शायद तुम्हारी वेवलेंथ पे नहीं थे?
When I started ConnectHear, not only friends who were outside of my circle, but I actually had people within the family who could not understand that क्यों अजीमा Facebook पर जाकर sign language में अपनी videos बना कर डाल रही है. It's not safe. Nobody cares about it. There were a lot of people who reached out to my parents and said that, you know, she's a girl. How are you letting her make videos and put it up? And this is before reels बनाना या blogging का ज़माना था. And I think that really was something for me to think about, that would I let what others say reach to me, or would I care about the community who have not been heard or listened to yet?
You're on a very powerful tangent there. तुम्हें लगता है कि जो हमारे माशरे ने लड़कियों के बारे में stereotypes बनाए कि लड़कियां ये कर सकती हैं, लड़कियां ये नहीं कर सकती हैं, लड़कियों को ये करना चाहिए, लोग क्या कहेंगे, ये damaging होते हैं?
Absolutely.
होते हैं.
Yes.
और इनको क्रॉस करना उससे भी ज़्यादा मुश्किल होता है.
Absolutely.
Because it requires so much of courage to do it.
I think those people who say that no, it's not damaging, or don't think about it, ये तो सबके साथ होता है, and not letting you acknowledge it, see it through, is also very damaging, right? My friends, when we have these discussions and they say something, I'm like, verbalize it, talk about it, say it out loud. Because when you say it, you will say that this is damaging, I'm not going to think about it because it's not helping me in any way. That's when you're going to make a change. That's when you're going to let people go in your life. I have left friends behind, relations behind. A lot of them came back once ConnectHear did good, once organizations started thinking and recognizing us. But shuru ki journey is, you don't always have everyone's support.
Okay, let me bring it back to Azima herself. सेल्फ हमारे यहाँ बहुत सारी ख़वातीन लड़कियाँ यही करती हैं कि उनको लगता है कि दूसरों का ख्याल रखेंगे, इससे मुझे खुशी मिलती है. बेशक आपको खुशी मिलती है, लेकिन सेल्फ केयर, अजीमा, व्हाट इज़ सेल्फ केयर फॉर यू?
Self care for me is something that I have intentionally explored.
Okay.
It wasn't in me, I wasn't thinking about it, but I reached a point in my life where I felt very burnt out. I was in a moment where I realized that my body is shutting down
it's
because
giving up.
it's giving up.
Yeah.
It also needs my attention, I also have to put myself up on the priority ladder. It didn't happen in the beginning. It has happened very recently. And I had to make conscious decisions, right? So decisions like, एक दिन होगा हफ्ते का when I have to rest. एक month होगा पूरे साल का when I'm gonna take it easy. And of course, it doesn't go as planned. You know, you plan that I'm gonna take a day off and काम आ जाता है. But I always I also remind myself, this is my moment to repair. I'm not gonna feel guilty about it.
अच्छा, we also have a love and hate relationship with technology. मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि tech, you've had a brilliant interpretation कि किस तरह technology एक vulnerable community के लिए मज़ीद accessibility और opportunities खोल सकती है. लेकिन what is your relationship like with technology? Do you think it's damaging? Do you think it's fueling and inspiring? क्योंकि कई लोग ये भी कहते हैं कि जी मैं social media पे या बाकी forums पे जितना time गुजारती हूँ, I'm disconnected from real friends. And I'm constantly sort of, you know, looking at new things. It's exhausting. Sleep cycle ख़राब हो जाता है. ज़हन हमेशा परेशान रहता है. आपके केस में क्या होता है?
My connection with technology goes since I was very young. My way of connecting with my parents, I could never audio call them, so it was always video calling. So I always saw it in a way that it was empowering my family. And when we started ConnectHear, technology was something that helped us reach out to the larger deaf community out there. It was using the third-party platform. So we didn't go about building an application because हमारे पास पैसा नहीं था उस वक्त. We were bootstrapping, right? So we used Facebook and making videos and putting it up on Facebook as a way to reach out to the larger deaf community. Not only them, but also show to the hearing community how accessible world or platform looks like. I never see holding hands or supporting others as a way that you're making someone dependent on you. I always see it as empowering others, and that's the conversation we need to have. How can we, with the opportunities we had, I was a young entrepreneur. I started at 19. I don't belong to a business family. I did not have money. I did not have space. I did not even have the camera to make the first video that would go out on Facebook.
अच्छा, मुझे लगता है कि technology and accessibility के साथ-साथ, I think hand in hand, to repair this mindset, we need sensitivity.
100%.
And it comes, you know, what comes to mind is this example. मैं एक visa application को follow up कर रही थी और जिस तरह आपको पता है कि उसका एक process होता है, they call out your name or your number कि आप आइए और window पे बात करें. So they kept on, you know, announcing a certain name, and then they later realized कि this person has a hearing impairment. लेकिन मुझे बड़ा अजीब सा लगा कि जो शख्स विंडो पे खड़ा, यानी वो नाम कॉल आउट कर रहा था, उनकी कोई सेंसिटिविटी ट्रेनिंग नहीं थी. थोड़ी देर के बाद जब रियलाइज़ हुआ एंड दिस पर्सन वेंट ऑन द व्यू टू द विंडो, तो उन्होंने कहा जी हमारा फॉल्ट थोड़ी, आपका नंबर गुजर गया, आप मज़ीद वेट करें. सो आई थिंक थिंग्स लाइक दैट, they need to be addressed. What do you say?
They need to be addressed and they need to be called out. I feel whenever I go to spaces and I see people being not accessible, I always say it out loud that this is what you need to do differently. However people associate Azima and ConnectHear and मैं तो ऐसी बातें करूँगी. I want more and more people to take this up. When you see instances like this, take it as an opportunity to educate others.
Absolutely.
To create, because this is not everyone's fault, you know. It's not people don't want to think about it or support the community. It's like कभी realize ही नहीं हुआ, कभी इस बारे में सोचा ही नहीं. तो इस बारे में जब बातें ज़्यादा होंगी, तब जाकर इस प्रॉब्लम का एक रिपेयर होगा, एक सोल्यूशन होगा, and everybody is going to take it up as their responsibility to serve the people out there. I'm surprised you noticed it, you felt it, and I'm sure after listening to this, a lot of people are starting to think about
आपके कितने experiences होते हैं? आप
exactly.
बस स्टॉप पे जाते हैं, आप ट्रेन स्टेशंस पे जाएं, आप एयरपोर्ट्स पे जाएं, वहाँ पे आपको लगता है कि भाई you take it for granted कि अच्छा जब मेरी फ्लाइट होगी, मेरी बारी होगी, अनाउंसमेंट होगी और मैं सुन लूँगा.
And my mom's so anxious.
What about the others?
My mom's always so anxious कि बताया क्या, आवाज़ आई क्या, flight है क्या, and this is what we need to do to make sure they have equal opportunity and not an anxious life all the time.
Absolutely. और मुझे लगता है कि this is a challenge for creativity and for design thinking. Thank you so much, Azima. It was a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me here.
And it is our intention कि इन conversations के ज़रिए आप भी realize करें कि how powerful you are. each of the things that you perhaps believe are your weaknesses, या ये मुश्किल है, ये माशरा बदलना, लोगों का mindset बदलना, there are people who are committed to their dreams, and if they are able to do it, so can you, because you're powerful beyond words. सिर्फ जिस चीज़ की ज़रूरत है कि आपकी intention होनी चाहिए, आपकी commitment होनी चाहिए, and you will be able to turn the whole tide around. इसी के साथ मुझे इजाज़त दीजिए. इंशाल्लाह next time we'll be back with another story of inspiration. Till then, take good care of yourself. खुदा हाफ़िज़.